On today's episode of WatchJRGo, we are back in the shop with my 2009 Volvo S80 that we have been working away on. And today, we troubleshoot the electrical problems. And there's a lot of them. What is going on, guys? I am WatchJRGo, and today, like I said, we are back in the shop with my 2009 Volvo S80. And in the last video, we fixed a bunch of problems. We fixed the wiper sprayers. We got started fixing the completely destroyed trailing arm bushings here. You can see that's what's left of the driver's side one, which is the one that causes the insane squeak. So we are getting close to that. We're waiting for the tool so we can press in the fresh ones. And today, well, we keep chasing down the problems that we have with the trunk and the parking sensors and all the error lights on the dash. So we're gonna jump right back into that. I had to go run the WatchJRGo kitty cat rescue service this morning. Riley's Audi A4, she called me and said there's a cat stuck in my car. And I was like, oh no, you know, thinking the worst had happened because cats love to climb into engine bays and that's never good. But this cat somehow got under the dash inside the car. So I just finished taking the Audi apart and getting the cat out, putting it in a cat carrier where it can't escape back into the car, and then putting the car back together. So that was a lot of fun. And now today we get to tear the S80 all apart. I'm gonna tear the whole trunk out of this thing today, and we're gonna figure out why the trunk release doesn't work, and also why there are so many problems with the parking sensors, not including the ones that are physically pushed out of their holes. Like that. And maybe we can fix that. So let's get into it. I'm gonna bust out the Autel, see what it thinks is wrong with the parking sensors, and also at the same time, I'm gonna tear this trunk apart. Here's the deal, guys. There's only about 6 power wires, or 7 wires total, that run into the trunk. And what bothers me most about this whole trunk situation is the fact that they all work, except for one of them. Now, of course, you guys probably saw in the comments, the old owner has replaced this latch. So he did say the latch was new, and obviously we tested it and we know the latch is working as well. If you give it 12 volts, it does work. And then coming into the trunk, let's actually talk about this because we can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wires. I think that is legit 6 wires there. And unfortunately, everything works. The tag lights work. The switch even works. If I squeeze this switch, listen inside the trunk here. Okay, just kidding. Actually, let me rewind. You can see the taillights just turned on when I opened the trunk. So we know the switch that tells this that everything is working is good. And now I just closed it and the lights shut back off. So now if I squeeze the button for the latch here and we're in the trunk, I don't hear it, but let's try lock, unlock, and I heard it. There was that click click. That was supposed to be the trunk latch releasing there, and it didn't. So that's what's driving me crazy here. I think this wire is good. All the wires to the switch, all the wires to the lights obviously are good. And the sensor to tell it when the trunk is latched and unlatched is also good. So we'll open it right now and you'll see the lights turn on. Drives me nuts that basically everything in here works except for the latch release. So troubleshooting this wiring harness right here is very annoying. And I did talk to Volvo this morning, and for $100 we could replace the whole harness. But that is honestly way too much money to dump into this thing. So we're gonna try tearing out the trunk, figuring out where these wires go, and ohming everything out. That way we can find out if there's actually a broken wire in the harness. Because what if it's not that, you know? What if we are missing something else in the system? But when you do use the remote to open the trunk or push the button in the car, you do hear the relay for the release run. So I went ahead and took the entire wiring harness out of the trunk and untaped it, and it looks like this is a factory crimp here. It's one of those long welds where the copper is like intertwined and then pressed together, probably with some heat. I don't see any solder on it, but I mean, it's a good connection, that's for sure. The white connector is the trunk latch, and this connector, the gray one, is that top bar with the lights and the handle we replaced yesterday. So this wire here with the little loop in it, that's the ground, because I ohmed it out to the tail light stud over here and immediately had continuity. So from what I can tell, that's ground for everything. And then all the other wires here, we have to figure out kind of what they are. And for some reason, I'm not sure what they are. I guess the entire switch for trunk open might sit on 2 wires, which would explain it. But we have obviously trunk open switch, latch release the button, latch release the motor, and then tag lights, and then the mystery wire. And for some reason, you know, 2 of those clearly come out of here. So that's tag lights and latch release. There's no doubt about that. But over here, why are there 3? But that doesn't really matter. What we're gonna do here is strip this thing back all the way up in here and get the insulation off of that just a little bit. I wanna take out like a little, maybe a 3-inch section, 2-inch section with a razor blade, expose the wires, and then start ohming them out to see if we can find a broken one. At least we know the ground's good. If it wasn't good, none of this would work. So we're really close. It's only 1 bad wire in reality, but I think we're gonna replace all the wires. And I ran to O'Reilly's and bought a bunch of 18 gauge wire to replace all the wires if we need to. I'm not against replacing all of the wiring in this loom and then just taping it all up with Super 33, so it's like a long lasting harness made out of a tape that will withstand the rigors of the outdoors, just like the old harness did. But at the same time, if it's 1 broken wire, which is what I think it is, then maybe we just add that wire into the harness and put a little bit of tape around it. That's what other people have done, but let's jump in here and figure out what's wrong before we commit. Well guys, you're gonna love this, but now that we have the wiring harness opened up and we're in here with the probe to figure out what's what, there's 8 wires. Only 5 come out, right? 6 come out. Only 6 come out. But there's 8 wires in the harness. So we are probing them all out. You can see I've got this thing all set up so we can ohm this out. There's our ohm meter doing its magic right there. So I know the latch release is either that wire or that wire that's broken, as far as I know. So we're gonna ohm them out, and the thing is, one of them should work and one of them shouldn't. It's gonna be really hard to find what's what. We might have to label them all, but I'm just gonna start going through all the wires until we have each one numbered and go from there. All right, go ahead and hit the trunk release. Let's see what happens. Ah, look at that! All right, it's latched again, hit again. Found the broken wire, guys, and I would love to tell you how to fix it yourself, but thanks to the miserable engineers at Volvo, it's one of the black wires. So you will have literally no luck without probing every single wire. And you can see that's what I ended up doing. We took the needle and probed all of them until we finally found the one that actuated with 12 volts. And there's like 3 constant 12 volt wires in there too, which is wild. But with that said, I'm just gonna add the 1 wire instead of redoing the entire harness because everything else is working perfectly. And I can just slide that wire in there with the factory grommets and we'll tape everything up so it looks nice and, well, as factory as it can. But with that said, this makes me very, very, very happy. Come on, is the remote really broken? Everything else works. Lights? Hazard, or panic doesn't work. Hey, there we go. That's all we wanted right there. It opened on the remote. All right, let's put in some heat shrink solder terminals right here, tape everything up, install this new wire into the loom, and put it all back together, and the trunk is ready to rock, and we can move on to parking sensors. So if you're pulling new wire all the way through the harness, which a lot of people just cut it right here and start repairing, assuming the brake's gonna be right there. I took all of this out, assuming the brake could be anywhere in this chain, and obviously I haven't found the brake either. I just went back to our known good point, which is right there, right? So we know that the latch works at that point. We don't know if it works anywhere past here, and it's probably broken in the, you know, somewhere in the mechanism zone here where the wire gets folded up all the time inside the trunk. So I took a Allen wrench, sprayed it down with some silicone lube, and then slid that backwards through the bushings or through the grommets there, and then used that to fish my wire in. So we have our additional wire added. If anything happens in the future, we might rebuild the whole harness. But for now, we'll go ahead and run our new wire up to our existing wire that connects to the latch. And then we'll use our solder and seal heat shrink connectors to finish all this up and then retape all of the harness. And I'm gonna retape this as well, just to try to make sure we don't get any water coming in through the trunk grommet right there. Obviously those are there to keep water out when it's standing right there, and it should be just fine, but just in case, I'm gonna take the tape back as close as I can to try to make sure it all works. Oh, Volvo, you're such liars. Look at that. Right out of the gate. Our new wiring harness is built. It's as good as it will ever be. I wish it could be prettier, but really that nice cable, I mean, this is the worst cable on the planet because all the wires are the same color, but also that nice cable is hard to reproduce. So, ooh, did I get, no, I didn't get it wrong. Okay, so that goes there, that guy goes there, and then this goes over this way, and this goes to the latch. So we'll plug in the latch, get it to snap right there, plug this in, and then let's test out our trunk before I go ahead and snap all the connectors into the trunk lid. Will the trunk work for the first time in years? Maybe you push trunk twice? Ah, it's trunk twice. All right, okay. Works every time, awesome. All right, time to put it all back together. And there is a lot to put back together. I had to tear the whole trunk apart. All right, we're getting the trim back on the trunk here. Let's find out if our button works. We are starting to win on the Volvo here. Now I gotta put all of this back together. So side panel, all this other fun stuff. But before we do that, I wanna start on the parking sensors so we can try to figure out if there's more wiring that needs replaced underneath here. So let's get this thing in the air and hook the Autel up and see what we find. So I was pretty sure there were faults on all the parking sensors, but now all we have is B1B4496, which is right rear outer sensor component faults. And check it out, we know that one was damaged, so I crawled up in here and the wires are destroyed. I know it's a little bit hard to see because the camera doesn't want to focus on that tiny little break, but there's a bunch of corrosion coming out of those wires. There's only 3 wires to go to each ultrasonic parking sensor, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut back a few inches and rewire that entire connector and tape it all back up, and then we'll remount the sensor housing and hopefully clear the last error off the dash. Now that I've got it all apart, we can see the culprit here. The green wire is completely broken and the yellow wire is partially broken. I actually think that yellow wire is just fine. It looks a little grungy, so we might go ahead and clip it back and replace it with just a little piece of, you know, filler wire, just so we don't have any open connections there. But at the same time, I do think the only real issue here is that green wire. And we're gonna verify that before we put all this together. I'm gonna strip those, touch them together, and then we'll rescan the parking access module, parking assistance module, and see what the scanner has to say about the sensor. Live data, let's see what we've got here. I think we can actually see, check it out. It looks like we get to see, oh, come on. Huh, I thought it was gonna show me the distance to every sensor. Well, if that won't work, let's take a look at this. Erase codes, yes. No codes, all right, all right. And now, show me. Huh. Maybe the engine has to be running. I just have the ignition on. I'd like to say that gluing the sensor back into place is the easy part. I got some JB Weld plastic weld in here, and it's supposed to set up in 15 minutes, but that is a long time to sit here holding a sensor in place. So what should be the easy part, a little bit of glue, is actually way harder than fixing the one wire that was actually broken. I did tape up the one that had the crack in the insulation, and then I taped up the whole harness and put all the factory covers back on it. So it should be good to go. I just have to stand here for a long time. And yes, I tried Irwin clamps, C-clamps, nothing fit. So here we are, doing it myself. Well, the S80 bumper has definitely seen better days. You can still see where it was all scraped up from hitting something and it popped the sensor off, but now I think it's fixed, so we're gonna hop inside right now and start this thing up and hopefully have no error lights on the dash. So let me get this car off the lift real quick. Obviously we can't get it all the way out or drive it or anything since we're still missing those trailing arm bushings. We'll have that together shortly, but first, we'll see if we won today. Oh no, it says low battery. We're good. All right. So let's clear this one. Washer fluid. That's it! No more errors on the dash. The check engine light, I think, was evap, so I'm gonna have to scan it again. But we finally don't have the warning triangle or the stop immediately warning on the gauges. Also, this thing is at extremely high idle while it waits for the alternator to recharge the battery a bit there. I don't think that's even a cold start warm up. That's like, my battery's dead. I had the lights off, but obviously I did have the ignition on because we were scanning it actively while we were working on that. Sounds good. Well, we've got one more fun code to deal with here. We're not going to do the fuel level sensor circuit because it does have dual sensors for fuel level in the tank. You can see it shows up twice, so we're definitely not worried about that sender there because it does work and it does show me how much gas is in it from sensor A. And the other issue is, of course, the evap. No subtype information there, but reference orifice low flow. And then the one that we should probably go after here is the battery back sounder. That's the alarm, and it's got a bad battery in it, and that is why the alarm goes off every single time I lock the car. But everything else in here is looking pretty good. So it does have a PAM code again. Let's clear it real quick and then rescan the car just to make sure that that parking sensor is fixed, and we're gonna go ahead and restart too. All right, restart. Let's see what we got here. Trunk open. Seatbelt off. But we'll clear trunk open and fill washer fluid again. All right, so that is all that's left, and we're gonna rescan the car one more time just to make sure there's no errors on the report. Parking assistance module errors, of course. That's really all we're looking for here. And there's none. It's green. All right, we are down to a handful of lights, 5 after that. All right, driver seatbelt sensor intermittent. I might be able to clean that or replace it, either way. I mean, obviously that's a pretty simple one to do, and it probably just has like pop, something spilled down the edge here. And then of course, left front window is flaky like it has been, and that's it. That is actually it. Everything else is intermittent. We are getting there, guys. This thing is gonna be so nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and rebuild the trunk now, and we're gonna call it for the day. Well, there you go, guys. The S80 is headed back off the lift for a couple of days while we wait for the bushing tool here, and then we'll get it back in here and get this thing wrapped up and take it on its maiden voyage with no lights on the dash. So that should be a pretty momentous occasion for this 190,000 mile car. And we didn't really spend any money today. It was just $20 a wire or something like that, and I used hardly any of the wire. We have all of that here for future projects too. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop WatchJRGo.com for cool shirts just like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. And the shop will be empty again. Look at this.